lovelies, it's Lynn with Nourish and Nestle. I'm coming to you today with two videos. The first video has to do with knitting the linen stitch to create the body of this, I must say myself, beautiful blanket. The linen stitch, is now my hands down most favorite knit stitch. I know I've said that before, but this time I really mean it. The woven quality that it gives, the completely flat fabric that produces, you're not going to have to worry about the ends rolling in if you didn't want to add a trim to it or a border. It's just unique. It's really different. I'll zoom in so you can get a better see what I'm talking about and see why I'm swooning over it. So the first video is going to talk about how to knit the body, and I used a Barocco's Remix for the body of this blanket. Second video is going to talk about how I created this crochet border. It's a light, airy, fun, fringy finish to this blanket, and I used Barocco's Remix Light. As opposed to the Remix, I was afraid the border would get a little too bulky. The Remix Light gave me just what I was looking for, just a little frillier, a little lighter, airier border. So without further ado, I'm going to show you how to knit, but first I'm going to get a close-up so you can see why I'm swooning over this fabric, this blanket. So look at that pattern. It really is just lovely, and it's really nice and thick. How do you not love fringe, right? So, you ready? Let's get knitting. So let's just recap the yarn again. I used the Remix, Barocco's Remix for the body of the yarn. The Remix is a worsted weight yarn, and I used its Remix Light for the crochet edge and fringe. It's a really lovely yarn that has a silk, linen, cotton blend, and I use the color almond, and you can just see here the difference just in the gauge of the two different yarns, the weight, I'm sorry. And it's a washable yarn, so that's a real plus when you're making a blanket. And once again, the finished fabric that this stitch produces is really one of my favorite. So we're going to cast on. I just used a long tail cast on, and once again, this is the linen stitch. So for the very first stitch, you're just going to slip it knitwise, and then you're going to knit the next stitch. Then you're going to bring your yarn to the front, slip purlwise, put your yarn in the back, and then knit the next stitch. So the pattern is, once again, bring the yarn to the front, slip purlwise, bring the yarn to the back, knit. Bring the yarn to the front, slip purlwise, yarn to the back, knit. We're just going to zoom through this. And one way to tell if you're always on track is on the knit row, you should always end with a knit stitch. So I'm slipping, and then I'm going to knit. And that's the way to check if you've stayed in pattern. So then on the purl side, we're going to slip the first stitch purlwise and purl the next stitch. We're going to take our yarn into the back, slip purlwise, bring the yarn to the front, and purl. All right, take the yarn to the back, slip purlwise, bring the yarn to the front, purl. Yarn to the back, slip purlwise, yarn to the front, purl. And the same thing on the purl row, you'll know you're on track if you always end with a purl stitch. And I'm going to zoom through here to create a little bit more fabric so I can also show you another way to stay on pattern. Just, a good little check that I do on every row so I don't go too far without getting out of pattern.
once again, I'm just going to create some fabric here so that I can show you better the ways that I have found to help me stay in pattern. Okay, so see here, you see how you have the purl bumps are, some are higher and some are lower. The ones that are lower are the ones you're going to purl this time. All right, the ones that are higher are the ones, so this is how I remember on the purl side what I need to stay in pattern to do. So I'm going to slip the ones that are higher, you're going to slip, all right, and you can see that pretty clearly here. This next stitch is higher, so I'm going to slip that, and I'm going to purl the one that's lower. Okay. I'm going to create a little bit of fabric here so I can show you my method for staying on task on the knit side. So on the knit side, you see that looks like a knit stitch. That's the one I'm going to slip. All right. And the one that almost looks like a purl, but what it is, it's the one that was slipped before. So you have a little bump in front of it, so it looks like a purl, but that's the one you're going to knit on this row. Okay, you see how it looks like it was purled, but really that's just the yarn that went behind it. So I'm going to slip the one that was knit, that looks like a knit, and I'm going to knit the one that looks like a purl, but really is just the one that was slipped the previous row. So it has that yarn just running in front of it on this row. All right. And then I'm going to finish this row, and then I'll show you how to cast off the linen stitch. You do want to cast off in pattern. If you don't, it will really flare out. Just the, the tension just will be wrong. All right, so casting off, and this is, I'm going to cast off on the purl side, but it's basically going to, the same thing, you're just going to bind off in pattern. So I slip the first one, and I'm going to purl, and then I'm going to just traditionally bind off. All right, I'm going to slip this one, bring the yarn in front, and pull that over. All right, then I'm going to purl one. Okay, so you're just binding off in pattern. So it's, with the same, I know this is going to be a slip one, just the same, kind of tip for making sure I'm staying in pattern, because it had the higher purl. So that is how you do the linen stitch. I hope you'll pick up the second video, find the second video, and I'll put a link to it in the description below, so you can see how to put the crochet edge on the blanket after you've knit it using the linen stitch. If you have any questions, make sure to pop them below. I'll check and be glad to answer your questions, or pop over to the blog if you want more detailed explanations or to print off the pattern. If you do want to go by the blog, click the little eye in the top right corner of the screen. And if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel and see when I put out new videos, you can do that by clicking on the nest in the bottom right corner of this video. Thanks again for stopping by. I hope you have a great day.